way of looking at our country, Liberia, a different way that can allow the participation of all of us as citizens of Liberia, regardless of whether you are in Butuo, or whether you are in Zogowi, or whether you are in Kawekan, or whether you are in Jowa, or in Banga, or whether you are in Zwedru, wherever you are, or in Harper, wherever you are. We need to start looking at Liberia through the eyes of all of us, that whatever we are endowed with, the gifts and opportunities that God has given unto us by being citizens of the Republic of Liberia, that those gifts and opportunities can be elevated in a way that all of us can participate in what is our country. That we all can not only suffer the pains of what comes, but we all can look at ways of making sure that everybody that is from the Republic of Liberia can see their ability to participate in our country through what they do. If it is farming, we need to elevate that so that they realize how important that is to our national discourse, right? If it is selling in the markets, we need to work hard to elevate that to see how important they are to our discourse. But for the purpose of this edition of our show, I'm going to be talking about the power of language. If you've already seen the title of the show, we are going to talk about the power of language, because this is one of our biggest challenges. And I tell everybody, until we can figure out how we become ourselves, until we can figure out how we embrace our own story, until we can figure out how we accept our story, regardless of how flawed it is, regardless of how troublesome it is, until we can accept that this is who we are as a people, we are headed nowhere. I will open the show by saying this through the quote of the great Nelson Mandela. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his mother language, that goes to his heart. And you can interpret this in many ways based on where you sit. And this, by man, we are also talking to women as well. It's just a general word used to describe everybody, right? And this is the problem we have. We do not know our mother language, unfortunately. So nobody is able to talk to us in our mother language. So as Liberians, when people talk to us, they are talking to us in a language we understand. And many a times, we do not even understand that language well because we did not even learn it well. The English language is not our language, never was, never will be. We struggle to speak it. We still cannot speak it or understand it well. We still struggle. So every time we are drawing our bases, every time we're planning our country, every time we're discussing our opportunities, and we're using the language that we learn to do that, we're just speaking to each other in our heads. We are not speaking to our hearts. Because the problem is we do not even know our mother's language. So we're lost. In essence, we are lost. And until we can figure out how we come back to embrace, to own, to celebrate, to elevate our mother language, we're going to continue to languish. We'll continue to struggle. We'll continue to look like strangers in our own land. We will continue to look like strangers to ourselves because we're struggling to be everyone else except ourselves. Let me take it one step deeper. Language is intrinsic to the expression of culture. That is the reason why you will hear a lot of Liberians tell you, oh, Liberia does not have culture. Basically, what they're trying to tell you is we don't know our language. So because of that, we are unable to fully express our culture because our language is also intrinsic to the expression of our culture. So as a result of that, we struggle to even accept our culture in terms of what it is, simply because we've come to a place to accept that we do not know our own mother language. So we're struggling. So we are struggling. And this is why I'm having this conversation about the power of language. It is a serious conversation. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. When you talk to him in his mother's language, that goes to his heart. According to Nelson Mandela, unfortunately, we are in much deeper trouble because we do not even know our mother language. So the challenge becomes, until we can get to a place of embracing ourselves, until we can get to a place of stopping from running away from who we are, until we can embrace ourselves, celebrate it, love it in spite of how flawed it is, until we can elevate it to where it should be. We're wasting our time and energy because we will never figure out what is really happening. We will always tinker around the edges. Think about it. We cannot even speak, read, write, or understand English properly. And that is the problem. Think about it. The few people who can properly communicate in the English language is less than 25% of the Liberian population. What we think we are communicating in, we call English, is really not. Because we do not have the full comprehensive understanding of how to use the English language. That is the reason why we often get ourselves into trouble, from government officials to pastors to bishops to everyone. Because we're trying to use the English language to communicate certain things. We are not successful at it because we don't do it well. So our communications fall short. But let's take it one step deeper. Language does not only express identity, it actually constructs identity. So there is no way you will truly know who you are. There is no way you can truly understand your identity unless you understand your language. So you are beginning to understand what many Liberians will make the argument that we do not have a culture. Why many Liberians do not fully understand who we are, because we do not understand our language. Because language does not only express it's not only an expression of your identity. That's one of the things it does. But language actually constructs your identity. Right? And somebody may be so quick to say, how do we do this when we got 16 tribes in Liberia? Look, let me be frank with you. If I reduce it, we have probably only 4 to 6 languages in Liberia. Many of what we call tribes are actually members of one language family. But let's take it one step further. Let's assume that we got 16 tribes, and how do we manage? I'm not asking you to do anything outside of your means. If you fully understand the value and context of the Bassa language, you will understand the Kru. You will understand the Kran people. Because these cultures, and intrinsically, you understand why certain tribal groups have very close similarities. Right? It's because it's the language that constructs the identity. So the deeper you go into your language, the stronger your identity becomes. The more visible it becomes, the better you can understand it. Let's take this conversation one step. People take it for granted. People don't realize it when we talk these things. So you wonder why we keep going in circle. How can you have the president of the Republic of Liberia decide to give a State of the Nation address when only 20 to 25% of our people speak, read, and understand English, and decide that he will not speak Kru when he is of the Kru tribe? You know what it's supposed to look like? We're supposed to have an interpreter translating the president's message in English while he's speaking it in Kru. Because you know what the president will do? He will elevate the Kru language. He will make it cool enough. All of us will start learning words in Kru. And you can hear the political jargons, because these one political languages we use in our local languages, people know it now. Everybody know what it means, Kapaho Impele in Liberia, because it's in a popular song that everybody likes. So when you say Kapaho, people know what it means. Right? Everybody know it. When you say Zokwe, who knew all of these things? Why would the president of Liberia? Look, let me give you an experience I had in Ghana. We went to the eastern region, Kwau, in Praeso, to be more specific. And we were guests, and the chief or the king decided to do a Dewa ceremony for us. So that's an honoring ceremony for our contributions there. And we sat there for about 30 minutes, and these people were speaking the local Ghanaian language in the tree. And I kept wondering, they're having a Dewa ceremony for us, and they are speaking Tree, and they know we are not native Tree speakers, or we don't fully understand Tree. Why would they be doing that? Later did I understand that the chief on his throne was negotiating with the elders to allow him conduct the ceremony in English so that we could understand, because he could not be sitting on his throne and speaking a foreign language. After about 30 minutes of back and forth, before the king spoke to us in English and said, I had to seek the permission of my elders to allow me use the foreign language of English for the purpose of this ceremony while sitting on my throne. Now that struck a chord with me. I don't know about you. But let's keep having this conversation. Not everybody would agree with me, but keep running away from yourself. I can remind you, you would get to a place, I will remind you that the rubber will hit the road. that there will be nowhere on planet Earth that you can go and feel like you belong. You know how many of us right now, when we go back to our own country in Liberia, we can't even feel like we belong? We look like strangers in our own land because we struggle to understand who we are, because our identity can only be constructed by our language. The secret code to our identity is our language. Our identity code is locked up in our languages. Until we muster the courage, the discipline, and the resilience and the intentionality to unlock our identity code from within our languages, you are a lost person. I am sorry for you. You will never fit anywhere, not even in your own country. Think about it. That's why many Liberians can only spend 2 weeks in Liberia, because it's impossible. You feel uncomfortable when you are in your own country, and people blame it on the fact that it is because of corruption. People blame it on the fact that it's because of no security. That is not true. You don't have the problem going to the nightclubs when you go to Liberia to have fun. No, you don't. You don't have the problem chilling at all the local entertainment centers. You don't. So why do you think everything else you got problem with it? It's because you cannot fully embrace who you are, because you've lost your identity code in the language that you should know. We will keep having this conversation. Let me take it one step further and put it this way. Educational institutions in Liberia will never be of any significance, will never be able to fully compete until we can boost our local languages onto the same exalted platforms as English before we can be considered serious about education. Why would we be teaching children in Vonjama math in English? Why would we be teaching children in Vonjama in English? Why would we be comparing them to take French when they cannot even properly understand the Loma language or the Bandingo language or the Bandi language or the Kisi language? Why would we be teaching them, forcing them to learn English? Now, one may argue that, oh, English is the universal language of business, blah, blah, blah. That is secondary to me. The value of my identity is more important to me than the secondary concern about business language. Okay? Anybody can learn English to do business anytime. Let's have a deeper conversation. We run away from it, right? Even in the Liberian community. Whenever we're having programs and stuff, that's when people come in the diaspora. That's when people come to show their academic prowess in the English language, using all type of words that nobody can now understand. We don't say, let's find out in the community, do we have our old man that can speak the local dialect here? We want them to open a traditional ceremony at our program. Let them open it in the dialect. If they have to say the Lord's Prayer in the dialect, so be it. Because you know why? By doing that, we will start to make our languages cool. We'll start to elevate it enough that our children can start to see how important it is to us. So if they're going to be part of our community, they will start to realize that the language is important. They will start to dig deeper into who they are. They will start being ashamed of what it is. Let's take it one step further. You remember in the Liberian curriculum, those of us who went to school in Liberia, you know, we were forced to learn French. Not even learn French. We were forced to memorize French and score grades. Let's put it that way, because we're not really learning them. We wouldn't need to score grades to pass, so we memorize them. You remember that, right? We can find a way to fold French into our curriculum, into our high school curriculum, but we can find a way to make Pele a priority. We can find a way to make Gyo a priority. We can find a way to make Kra a priority. Kisi, Bandi, Loma, a crew, Grebo, you name it. Go on and on. Bassa. How is that not upside down? And you people, we are running around looking at solving problems that we are not capable of solving. The low-hanging fruits that we have so much power and ability to solve, we've rejected it. The plum that hanging right down that you can just stay and put your hand and grab it, it's ripe. You say, no, you will not grab it. The one that way on the top of the tree that you need to climb 3 layers to climb, that the one you say you won't solve. What sense does that make? Finish harvesting the low-hanging plum first, right? You can just grab. Finish harvesting that, and then you can start to have a conversation. Let's get serious. Let's get serious. Monrovia is not Liberia, right? Even people in Monrovia cannot speak English. That's the problem. Let me give you an idea, because some of you may start to wonder, how do you teach our 16 tribes? Let me give you let me simplify this for everybody to understand. What is wrong with mandating all schools in Grand Bassa County to start teaching Bassa from kindergarten? Let's assume we don't have people who can read and write Basa. Let's just make the assumption. That's not even true because I know we do have. But let's assume for the sake of argument. What's wrong? The ABC we can learn in kindergarten. What people can teach us in another song? Another song that they can be singing, we'll be learning A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Is that not how we actually learn it? What's wrong with singing Basa to our children in kindergarten to start learning this? So if you went to school in Grand Bassa County, we will know because Basa will be a fluent language that you can speak. Let's go to Lofa, where you got 4 to 5 different groups, tribal groups existing together. What's wrong with teaching all 5 of them in our schools from kindergarten? Making sure that it's mandatory that you must learn at least one. And you know, if Loma that your team, you take Loma in Lofa. If Kisi that your team, you take Kisi. If Pele that your team, you take Pele. If Mandingo that your team, you take Mandingo. So if you tell our people, say you went to school in Lofa County, you will actually be able to speak Mandingo or Kisi or Loma or Bandi or Pele. And if you are somebody who's very smart with languages, you want to learn all 5 of them, even better. Va. What's wrong with teaching Va in Kema County? What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Let's have a serious conversation for once. Let's have a serious conversation. Let's stop bullying, fooling ourselves around the place here, right? Because I can tell you, Liberians will continue to remain lost until we can get to a place of fully acknowledging and accepting who we are. We will continue to remain lost because our identity core is deeply locked down into our languages. That is the reason why Liberians have the audacity to stand up and say, oh, we don't have system in Liberia. You're making a big mistake. Systems were in Liberia long before 1847 or 1822, long before the settlers arrived. In fact, some of the most robust and resilient systems existed in what is now called Liberia. Before there were anything called government, before you borrowed the nonsense called, what we practice in Liberia, call it not democracy, that's nonsense. Before we borrow something that we never had any understanding about. So today, we keep fighting to understand something that makes no sense. I promise you me, government in Liberia will always remain dysfunctional until we can find a way to make it work. And you know, seamlessly with our traditional systems, government would be a failure. You can bring Jesus Christ and make Jesus Christ president of Liberia. You are wasting your time. God is not a voodoo priest. You can do all the fast and prayer for the Republic of Liberia you want. You're wasting your time. If you give God garbage, God is not a voodoo priest. God will multiply your garbage and give it back to you. If you give God quality, God will multiply your quality and give it back to you. If you give God fraud, God will handle your fraud back to you in wholesome. If you give God honesty and sincerity in your efforts, God will multiply and give it back to you. So you keep treating God like God is some type of voodoo priest. No, God is a practical God. Ask Cain and Abel. Cain prayed for nonsense. He offered God nonsense offering. God multiplied and handed it back to him. And you know how the story ended. Abel offered God quality offering. God multiplied and gave it back to Abel. Since we love to talk Bible and religion, let's take it one step deeper. In fact, Liberia still has some of the most robust systems you can think about. Let me challenge you. Customary law in Liberia, our traditional systems. Have you ever asked yourself that after over 100 years of suppression by the true Win Party government that had this one-party system that was innate on proper, sometimes even erasing what our traditional cultures are, our traditions still survive? Have you asked yourself, after more than 1 decade or close to 2 decades of war, it did nothing to shake our traditional systems? They're still in place. Have you asked yourself, after all the dysfunction of what we call government, have you asked yourself why our traditional systems still remain the strongest of anything you can think about? But because we've escaped our identity codes within our languages to really understand who we are. We got zero clue. We're not even aware of it. We're chasing this nonsense we are practicing in Liberia called government every day, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, when the most resilient systems that have survived everything are still there right underneath our own eyes. But we say it's not good enough. We got to run somewhere else to go take other people who borrow it and bring it to ourselves. Let's have a serious conversation. Maybe we can take some comments, Anthony, as we go here. If we have some comments, maybe we can go to some of our comments. Let's see what some of our comments are. My Numen Topa Tonola says, this is a serious situation we need to work on in Liberia. Because since I arrived here in Israel, my friends, Israel, Uganda, Tanzania, Philippines, Cambodia, and Thailand always ask me what language you speak in your country other than English. Because they hear us speaking English every day when we're conversing. I agree with you, man, dear. Basically, they are asking you in quote, what is your identity? Who are you? Because we know you're not English. We know you're not English woman. So who are you, my sister? I agree with you, Nume. 100%. Nume also says we need to start teaching our children one language in every school in Liberia to have our identity. I agree with you. I don't disagree. Thank you very much for your comment. Pin S. Charles says, I'm staying in Germany. I'm staying in Germany. Some Germans don't speak English at all. I agree with you. And they're still doing well. Variant Powerhouse says, oh my goodness. So is Loma spoken in Morovia? What are you saying, my dear? I think you are more lost. Variant, I will not answer that. I will say follow the show. Maybe you understand. Well, since you haven't been following clearly, so do a little bit of work. Later on, you can go back and watch it. Numen Topa Tonola say, as a Liberian, if you don't travel, you wouldn't know the importance of your language until travel and be asked what language you speak home. That's the time you become so embarrassed. I agree. Variant Powerhouse say again, how can you say the one standard language that all 16 tribes use to interact with each other and you say it should be taught in every part of Liberia? Variant, I still do not understand the question. So if you can clarify for me, but I was not saying one language should be taught all parts of Liberia if you heard me clearly, right? Again, like I said, I don't know if you've been following the show consistently or if you've been going in and out. You can go back and watch the video. We will move on. Sekpa Romeo said, Leo, if you was offered a position as Minister of Education under President George Weah, will you accept it? That's a good question. I don't know. And I'll tell you why I don't know. Because I can sit here and hypothetically tell you no or yes. No, I will examine, first of all, the conditions under which someone like me can serve as Minister of Education. I will put it forth. If the government is willing to accept those conditions, then yes. The problem we got in Liberia, when government make appointments to people who say they are experts and qualified, they go and take whatever they are offered because they want to hustle. They do not educate the government to say, okay, I can be Minister of Education. Here are the conditions. Here are the resources the government needs to be serious to allocate, Mr. Government or Mr. whatever government. Are you willing to allocate the resources? Here are the conditions under which I will work. If you can allow me to have these conditions, then yes. Other than that, no. Nobody will offer me a job I take it and pretend like I can make voodoo. Most of the people who are taking jobs like the Minister of Education, nobody can make it work. You know how much is the budget? Let me tell you the priority of our budget. It's supposed to be education, health, agriculture, which is food security, before you come to even things like the military and the rest of it. But our budget is upside down. So no, if anybody asks me today, Leo, want to make you Minister of Education, trust me, I will come up with a dossier of conditions and preconditions under which we should agree with the government that these preconditions will be met, right? You can't give me cassava, then you expect me to harvest orange. It can't work. We will make sure with the government, with the thing we planting, it better be orange. Because then I will tell you, yes, I'm accountable for delivering orange harvest time. I will water that orange tree. I will curate it. I will take care of it. I will do whatever I have to do to make sure we produce more orange. So that'll be my answer to that comment. Do we have more comments? Do we have more comments, Anthony? If not, we will also start to open up the lines. The phone numbers are out here. Those of you who want to contribute, please, you can call in. If you disagree with me, no problem. I am happy to take your disagreement. If you agree with me, that's great also.
No more comment, Leo.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm opening the phone line soon.
Yeah, so we'll be opening the phone line soon. So if you want to call in, the numbers are on the screen. You can call in. But let's keep having these conversations in a more serious way. We cannot keep sitting here and fooling ourselves that we know Liberia. That's the problem we've got. We don't fully understand who we are. That's why we can open our mouth and spew some of the nonsense we talk about when we say, oh, Liberia got no system. Who told you Liberia got no system? If Liberia has no system outside of the urban areas in the country, it will be absolute chaos and lawlessness. People will just get up in villages and kill people or do whatever they want to do, and nothing will come from out of it. You know, the only reason why there is still a semblance of security in Liberia is because of our customary and traditional systems. They work. You say no system in Liberia? Ask yourself how the small village that have seen 10 generations of your people come through still exists today, and you say no system. So now no God. Imagine We got a village in Liberia that the president traveled to for the first time ever in the history of Liberia for a president to travel to since 1847 in Nima County, when President Weah was on his country tour. How do you think those people have managed to keep the peace together, to provide food for themselves, food security, feed themselves, to sustain from one generation to the other? You think they're doing it by magic? No, it's by system. Or what do you people define as system? Oh, when a white man has inside, then another system. When you're not written in one big dictionary somewhere, then it's not system. Is that what you define as system? Let's recheck your definition of what we call system. Let's recheck it. We have another comment from Pin Charles here that says, the topic under discussion is very important. I traveled 15 African countries and 8 European countries. Everywhere I've been, the citizens speak their local language very well and doing great things. I agree with you, my brother, because your identity code is locked up in your language. You will never know your identity until you fully understand your language. If you do not fully understand your language, I promise you me, say Leo say, you will never fully understand who you are. You know how many all go to Liberia, we feel a stranger in our own country? That's why we castigate everything there. Because we can seem to understand why the people think a certain way, why the people behave a certain way. You know why? It's because we ourselves don't know who we are. We not come to America, we live here for small time, we think that because we been here, that means we are anything special. No, we're not. African Americans live in the United States of America forever. They've been here since the 1800s, 1700s. They're still struggling to find their identity because their identity was stolen. Their languages were stolen, and they were never able to recover it. So today, African Americans are living a crisis of language and identity. You know why? Because the secret code to their identity, which is their language, was stolen from them. And then we have the opportunity to live in places where we can still recollect our languages and who we are. No, we sit down, we say we white people. We come here, we went to Norway. Those of you who went to Norway, Liberians learn Norwegian. You went to Germany, you learn German. You went to France, you learn French. Some of y'all learn what? Bambara. Some of y'all learn Twi. And some of y'all even live in this country more than 2 years. You can speak these languages fluently now. But you tell me that rocket science for you to learn to speak Bassa because my parents never taught me. That's the most irresponsible excuse ever. If you want to learn Bassa, you will learn Bassa. Trust me. If you want to learn Gyo, you will learn Gyo. I promise you me. So no excuses. Absolutely not. If you're serious and you want to learn your language, you will learn it. And I'm nobody's responsibility to teach you your language. That's your own responsibility. You choose to learn it or not. And that's how you will continue to just linger. There will be nowhere on planet Earth. I promise you, you will continue to be unstable until you unlock your identity code. Instability will be your portion. Because you will never be able to fully understand who you are until you can learn your secret code to your identity. You will never be able to beat your chest and say that me here. People will tell you, oh, I'm from Grand Baza, oh, but my people never taught me Baza, so I can speak Baza. And you have the audacity to be telling people, say you're from Grand Baza. No, you're not from Grand Baza. This is the seriousness we should be talking about. We got in our country, we are building ministry now or whatever. I go and I see writings from China on it, in Mandarin, in Cantonese. So the Chinese people have convinced us that it is important for them to inscribe their languages on our building. We force them on. We're not learning difficult languages now. We got to be looking at Chinese writing and figuring out what it means. But we can convince ourselves that we can put some Bassa writing on the building too. That we can put some Pele, some Gyo writings too.
Leo, we have a caller.
Let's take one caller here. Let's go ahead.
Caller, your name, where you joining us from? Go ahead.
Hello, Anthony, and hello, Leo. This is Ponce Deck, and I call from Ponce Deck, and I call from New Jersey, Hamilton to be specific. And the topic that you came up with is a very strong topic, and it carries a lot of message in it. And you see, one of the I just do understand in our culture is that we do have tradition, but we have lost our tradition in the way that we left our own ways of life and go with the Western ways of life. Now, someone will come and tell you that we have our forefathers who laid into existence. They have 3 and 4 women, and they continued that marriage, and there was no misunderstanding. And no old man lived for 70 and 90 years. But in our days, you have a marriage, a Western marriage, you just having just a woman, but you cannot handle the marriage. You see always people coming to court those issues, setting up cases, because that is not our way of life. We try to practice a system, we try to practice a new way of life that has nothing relation to us. So I do agree with you, and I will make sure to see how best this conversation will not just be on the focus on Liberia, but there is a kind of conversation that we're supposed to spur, we're supposed to disseminate. English is not yet our language. That's why you see we say things to our own people and they still do something different. We tell them to vote for John and they vote for John Brown because you telling the man, cast your vote. What the little man who didn't go to school know about cast? So cast just like showing something, tell the man to show your vote. But if you come down to the level of understanding and say, you don't then leave the work cast and say, you have to go and do your vote for someone who will explain to them the significance of their vote. I think that is the problem. The people actually, Liberians are very smart. Liberians, especially from the traditional setting, we have our culture there in existence, and the people in the interior, you don't even hear protests in the interior. But all the protests and problems is in the city. So I agree with I think communication is what lacking in our midst. Thank you so much, Leo, and thank you, Anthony, for hosting Leo on this kind of important discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you there. I will continue. And then we pass around enough. And thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. I really appreciate it. And then we pass around in North America. We wear country gown on July 26th celebration. And then we say, I am representing my culture. What culture? You know where you come from? We don't appreciate it fully. We don't understand. We don't fully understand. And don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here telling you, say, it's an easy thing. It is not an easy thing, but the same way you can muster the courage and the sacrifice to go and get a PhD, to go and get a BSc degree, to go and get a master's, to go and get a diploma, a certificate, whatever you do. If you have that kind of resilience and discipline, then what about your own self? Why you can do it for yourself? Do it for yourself. Right? You turn your culture and your identity into a caricature. Whenever you can wear one country gown, then when you take all the pictures and put it on Facebook, are you representing your culture? That is not how it works. The number is on the screen. For those of you who want to call and contribute, you can hit it and call, or you can post your comment and we will be able to read it as well. But thank you, everyone. Let me put it this way again. Our culture cannot continue to be used as marketing content. Because if you fully understand your language, you will start to appreciate your identity. You will start to show the type of respect you must show for who you are. If you never understand who you are, until you can unlock your identity code, which is your language, promise you me, call me 10 years later, you will continue to be a stranger wherever you go, even in your own country, Liberia, even to the place you were born. You will be a stranger because the people there will never be able to relate to you. Never. It does not make any sense. Your power can be who? They will not. And this does not require any government. It requires our collective effort. Jimmy Eastman say, the reason why Liberia is not working is because integrity and virtue has been dismissed. We still in a war survival mode and do not give the required respect to rules, laws, and order and organization. Language identifies culture, but habit is an action done on a regular basis, while culture is the arts, custom, and habits that characterize particular society or nation. We in Africa have adapted to evading rules and law, which leads to corruption. How will language change that? Jimmy, let me take on your question. First of all, why will you go borrow people's rules, laws, and bring them to say people must abide by them? You disrespect our traditional systems. You abuse them because you feel somebody went to school and got some kind of degree. So you think you have the right to call our traditional people primitive. When they tell you, say this bush is for our traditional rights and stuff that we do, we don't want people to go there. You say, who are you? All people are welcome, be wasting people there. We're going to take all the place and develop the place. Then you, in the same breath, tell them we just borrow the white people's systems and laws, and brother, you must respect it. What nonsense is that? The reason there is no respect for rules, laws, and order in Liberia, because most of our rules, laws, and order actually clash with our traditional systems, which are innate to the land. You force your children to go sit in academic school to score letter grades and say they are learning, except that they are learning things about everybody else in the world except themselves. They graduate from school in Liberia without even fully understanding how Monrovia got its name. They graduate from school in Liberia without even understanding why there is a place called Lofa, why there is a place called Bassa. They graduate from school in Liberia without even understanding what they call Moile or Katwaye or Fabese. Huh? No, they don't. Or Kifahala. They don't understand any of that. And you telling me, say, rules, laws, and system. Rules, laws, and system based on what? Based on the borrowing we've done from the West? No. Our laws, rules, and system that have been on the land long before anybody arrived. It's about time to elevate it, because it is what our people know. They still respect it, even though you dismiss it. So yes, language will unlock our identity. And when we unlock our identity, we will start to appreciate the systems that have been in place for more, that is older than Liberia itself, that has kept our people alive in villages from generation to generation. There are villages that are older than any city you can think about, built under your modern system that you call rules and laws that we've borrowed. It is reality. It is the truth. I'm not making it up. You know why you can go up interior in the villages? They didn't have public toilet and anything there. But you know why the place just clean than the Monrovia that we live in, where people can put in a plastic bag over the house?
Leo, sorry, we have a caller.
We have another caller. Let's take our next caller here.
Jermaine, go ahead, and please don't listen to your monitor.
Okay, so I like the topic. I think culture is very, very important, and it helps us know who we ourselves. But here's my question. In many parts of Africa, I travel all throughout Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and people speak their native languages. But there's still a common thing that's wrong, and that is the culture, the abuse of power is still as common as anything else, despite they speaking their own language. So with your solution that adopting your own language will eradicate corruption, I don't see the thesis. I don't understand how that will work.
So Jimmy, let me hold you there.
We see the same thing.
Yeah, let me hold you there, Jimmy. I did not say adopting our culture or speaking our language will eradicate corruption. Corruption is a human problem. Even in the great United States that you live, corruption is deeply rooted in the U.S. government systems, in the U.S. society. People are corrupt everywhere you go. They've managed to minimize it to a certain extent. All I'm saying is learning your language will unlock you for understanding and appreciating your identity. At least the other African countries where you saw problems, they know who they are. So yes, they deal with other issues that are human problems. We are even in a bigger problem because we are lost. Our children are lost. We don't know who is Liberian. We ourselves can admit it. So my conversation is not about eradicating corruption. My conversation is about, can you get to understand who you really are? Then we can have a conversation about corruption. Not knowing who you are is a form of corruption itself, because you are depriving your children from understanding who they are. It's a form of corruption.
Okay, I understand your point that by knowing your culture will identify, where your inclination should be. We accept that, all right? But where is the link between advancement, scientific advancement, and a language? Because the reason why we speak different languages, I can tell you, our languages were never developed to be able to describe and articulate certain things in science. For instance, when we see a car in some language, they say moving house.
It was never developed to the level. This is why languages are borrowed, French borrowed from English, English borrowed from languages are borrowed to adequately describe a concept, whereby culture, language does help you know who you are. But if we talk about advancing and science, that is a whole different question.
So
that is a whole different direction.
So let me challenge you on a few things there. Number one, the Va language is one of the oldest languages anywhere. It was one of the first scripted languages. So our languages are far more sophisticated than many other African languages, first of all. So let me tell you that that assertion is wrong, that our languages were not developed. Go to the Library of Congress. There are sophisticated Va scripts that still exist that are well advanced than most African languages spoken even today. Let me just take you down on the second thing. Let me
just give you an example. I'm not talking about the script. Yes, we have.
I said the language.
I'm not talking about that. For instance, describe an amoeba in Vi.
But first of all, and languages are not based on universal descriptions. So the Va people got a description for it. They may not call it the way you think. You are translating it in your head to English. So in English, you are saying it's called a moving house. But that's not what it means in Va. So stop translating it to English because it holds a certain value in Va.
Let me give you another example. I speak Amharic. Amharic is the Ethiopian language. That is one of the oldest languages on the continent. It's even older than as old as Hebrew or any one of those Coptic languages. Okay, and even there, where they have a whole Bible and everything from the time of Jesus Christ, there are limitations to what the language can describe.
Even English,
okay,
the English that you speak got many stupid words in it that makes no sense at all. Even English, many sentences in English makes no sense. They say they are the same words, but they mean 5 different things. They make no sense. Even English that you speak, my friend. The French people say English is English language.
What do you recommend?
Here is my recommendation. Let us embrace who we are. And those of us who say we are educated, we have a responsibility to develop our own. Why would we be running away from our own to borrow from our own who they already developed? We need to develop ours.
We agree with that. We agree. Fela was a language that was established at LU June just before Tolbert was killed. He felt everybody, because the Fela people are more populous than any other tribe. He said, why don't we adopt Fela as the national language? And that was a move. There was a move made toward that. Do you think you can still sell that idea to the rest of Liberia?
So I fully agree with you, but why should we even adopt Fela as the national language? We can teach every language in Liberia. If you go to school in Grand Bassa County, the schools in Grand Bassa, why are we teaching it at a university level? It's too late at that point. We should start teaching it from kindergarten. If you go to school in Grand Bassa County, Bassa should be mandatory in the curriculum for schools in Bassa. If you go to school in Cape Mount, VA should be mandatory in the curriculum for schools in Grand Cape Mount. Let's teach all of them. While we work hard to get one that we can adopt nationally, that's far off. Let's start cultivating the richness and evolution and development of these languages first, before even we jump to which one should be selected, in my opinion.
I find that interesting. And what I also noticed, I go to Liberia every year, and I just from Liberia. Now, the young people, you do not want to speak dialect.
It's because we have dismissed it. We make it bad. We have told the people our dialect is not good enough. It's bad. It's not advanced enough. It can describe science. It can do this. So why would they want to speak it when we told them it's bad?
So we need to change the narrative. Now we need to tell them we should be speaking our dialect.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jimmy, that some of these languages are not as developed. But my question is, who will develop it?
I understand where you're going, but I'm still looking at the real situation in Liberia is yes, culture is important, but include in your culture the respect for elders, respect for the law, respect for the community. Don't throw things that, I mean, all that is part of culture. So we have to teach, we have to incorporate these integrity, virtue, as well as just teaching the language. You just don't want to teach, it's not the language, but the process, the practices of our culture. If you go in a village, you'll find the village is very clean.
Exactly.
Very, very clean. While Monrovia is excited.
But Jimmy, let me just hold you there. I will hold you there because I would say this to you. Your culture is embedded in the language. So how will you teach the culture without the language? How? You can do one without the other.
I don't see, not necessarily, because when you're old people speaking to you in dialect, they are also teaching you ethics and other rules and stuff. Yes, you see, it is related, but it's not direct. There has to be a breeding. There has to be a grooming of the person, not just in their language, yes, in the native language, but there's extra teaching and grooming that is going on.
So
it's not just language.
Jimmy, how will you fully understand the context that you just said? In our languages, certain things are impossible to describe in English. You can only describe it in our language. How are you going to fully understand the full context of what you're being taught when you cannot understand the language through which it is being taught and translated? Number two, you know why the villages are cleaner and better than the cities? Thanks to the poorer and descendant societies, that the bush school. Thanks to the bush school that our people can go and learn how to keep their surroundings clean and better. What have we done to the poor and the descendant society? We've not invested in it. We've dismissed it. We've only taken the bad things that are inside and elevated all the bad things and made it look like there is absolutely nothing good about it. But we've promoted academic schools that people are learning almost nothing in.
Those societies helped us along the way. I'm not going to go deep into because there are a lot of secret things that are there that's supposed to be preserved.
Exactly.
But we have also seen people use those societies in the wrong way.
That is true, Jimmy.
Like the other day during the election.
That is true, Jimmy.
Right?
You made a great point. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
They were told not to go outside because the devil was coming out.
So, all right, I will address that piece.
People were outside and they were punished.
Go ahead, finish.
I don't know if you remember that story.
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy, finish.
And some people came outside and they were punished for doing such. And when they went into the investigation, they saw that some people were trying to abuse their power in the society. That's what was going on there. And
so, Jimmy, so let me just address that point. There was nothing wrong with the devil coming outside. So let me shock you here. In our country, it's legal in our constitution. Customary law is equally as much as legal like our formal justice system. So in the absence of our formal justice system in the countryside, customary law takes jurisdiction, and the minister of justice for customary law in our traditional areas is the country devil. So there were electoral violence. Liberian National Police was nowhere around. People started hurting each other, chasing each other. So they put the country devil outside to restore law and order, and the country devil seized the ballot box. Just as if the justice minister from Monrovia was there, they would have ordered the police to restore law and order and seize the ballot box. So until we get serious, because we refuse to develop our customary law, even though our constitution says customary law is legal in Liberia. It's not behind the horse law. That's what the Liberian constitution says. But the USAID reminded us about this 4 years ago that our neglect of customary law will cause a problem because it's legal, but we've never developed it to the place. So the country devil has full jurisdiction for seizing the ballot box. It has the right to do so when there's no law and order, and it must restore law and order. I challenge anybody to challenge me on that.
Okay. I see your point.
So our neglect of these things is causing problem. Because if customary law would have, imagine customary law is taught at LU, at the University of Liberia, Louis Arthur Graham School of Law, but they made it an optional course. So we are training lawyers who have zero understanding of customary law in Liberia when the constitution says it's legal. So why not we develop it, and the challenges and gaps and issues with it, let's fix it and get it to a place where it makes sense with our formal justice systems. But no, we say we were neglected. Now, when these kind of things happen, the country devil step in, then people complain. The country devil has 4 jurisdictions when the Liberian National Police and the Ministry of Justice has no presence.
Yeah, so Jimmy, we'll let you go. We're about to end. Thank you for your participation here.
Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So people, thanks Jimmy for calling. I love the interaction, but again, we are running out of time very fast. So thank you for participating today. Anthony, can we read some comments before we close? MLA Ekwa Erskine say, absolutely, Leo. Let us embrace who we are and develop our own culture, language, etc. Well done, Leo. Thank you, MLA. Thank you for joining in. Fonso Dirk said we have a Bassa Bible, full version of the Old and New Testaments. What you mean we haven't developed our language? Again, thank you, my brother Fonso, but most of our languages are actually written. They got people in Liberia that can read and write them, so you're right. Ubuntu 7 Field say Liberia is brainwashed country that need to have value in themselves as a people. Thank you for your contribution as well. Rachel Zona said, really? Do you guys really support that? I wouldn't call the word that he used here, country. Yeah, we support it because where we from, Impella, we say, your una, the only one we got. So yes, if it's that what you say it is, then we will all go with clean it. That thing that will clean it, will throw it away, will make it better. And this is the starting process here that we're beginning right now. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been another beautiful afternoon. I will close by reminding you of these few quotes that I opened with when I started the show. Number 1, language is intrinsic to the expression of culture as a means of communicating value, beliefs, and customs. So who are we? Language does not only express identity, it actually constructs your identity. So we can say we want to learn the culture but not the language. It does not work. And like Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, it goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his mother language, it goes to his heart. Our problem is we do not even know our mother language. So we are one step behind before even taking advantage of this quote. Let's step up. And I said educational institutions in Liberia will never be serious until we can boost our local languages to the same exalted platform as English. My friends, that is the Liberian dream. Because when you boost our local language to that system within our educational institutions, everybody will be able to participate. Even a child that never heard a word of English will be able to participate because the languages being used are our local languages. Believe it, take it, watch my word. You will always remain a stranger on planet Earth until you can construct your identity within your language. Everywhere you go, every country you go, you will feel like a total stranger, even in the land of your birth. Many of us now are strangers in the land of our birth. We are limited as to what we can participate and can participate in. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the real Liberian dream. These are the conversations we should be having. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a beautiful afternoon. My name is Leo Lupolu Johnson, and I came to you live from the beautiful city of Hamilton in Ontario, Canada. See you next time in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.